Welcome to the Vegan Stew. I'm Helene, part of the Stew crew. Thank you if you watched last night for Virtual Veg Fest Live, our fun talk about Disney and veganism and starting your own business. If you're, in a vegan world, start a vegan business. Pretty cool. That was with Janelle. Here we are. We can talk about our Vegans Week. Are we? Are you? Well, let's see what we have to say. Of course, we're going to talk about some climate and current events. And thank you to Piedmont Farm Animal Refuge for sponsoring our lives this month. And if you'd like to win prizes, go to virtualvegfestlive.com and click the contest tab. And you can do some really fun stuff. Take a picture with one of our sponsors, be creative, upload it to Wishbond, ask people to vote for it because it will influence us, even though it is not the final decision. Some people did a great job last month and had tons of votes. So it did help it make our lives easier. We want you to be creative, and then you'll win a prize pack, potentially, based on us looking at it, because that's what we did, from Terra Seed, Hodo Foods, Veg Key, Rebel Cheese, Cinnaholic, Fabulous, or Bernie's Wild Adventure Sauce. Those are our 7 sponsors for the month of August. We really appreciate them and their support. Now, if you go to YouTube, please do subscribe to the Vegan Stew and hit the notification button, and go to Virtual Veg Fest on YouTube as well and do that too. Subscribe to the Virtual Veg Fest and hit the notification button so you know when we go live. Now remember, if you have any questions or comments, we always like to have them. Be part of the show and let us know what you have to say, and we will address them as we do. So let me see. Let's bring in the Stew crew. Tonight we've got Kelly from Climate Healers and the Vegan Abler. We have Marla Rose from Vegan Street. Ellen Kathy Jones, the Veg Coach from vegcoach.com. And Nows is always a graphic. So Nows and Rob and Bob Best, and Nows is awesome. So Nows is always like the littles running around. So I'm positive that they will pop in and add to what we're going to talk about. So we've decided as a Stew crew that climate is so important and the environment so important that we're going to talk about it every week. And we were going to talk about it to the point until it sinks in and you realize how important the climate and the environment is. So speaking of that, I'm going to throw it at Ellen.
All righty then. Today's pumped up environmental story, and you just read these things, and I hope we don't get like callous to this stuff, but I'm reading this and I'm going like, this is just like, well, I'll just read it. Just the facts, Jack, right? An extraordinary drought in the West is drying up the Colorado River and draining the nation's largest reservoirs like Lake Mead and Lake Powell. And amid the overuse of the river and the acidification of the region, the federal government is implementing a new mandatory water cut and asking states to devise a plan to save the water basin. The federal government announced Tuesday the Colorado River will operate in a Tier 2 shortage condition for the first time starting in January, as the West's historic drought has taken a severe toll on Lake Mead. According to a new projection from the Department of the Interior, Lake Mead's water level will be below 1,050 feet above sea level come January, the threshold required to declare a Tier 2 shortage starting in 2023. This means Arizona, Nevada, and Mexico will have to further reduce their Colorado River use beginning in January. California will not have yet cuts made to the water they receive from the Colorado River. All right, so that's kind of it. And it said at the part of, I think another story I read about this said they had a deadline to come up with a plan, all these states, and they haven't done it. And they said that the biggest drain is on agriculture. And of course, they didn't put the word, this is what drove me nuts, they didn't put the word animal in front of agriculture. So people are thinking their almonds are sucking up the water, or the plants otherwise are. And I know Marla Vegan Street has done some incredible memes. I was just reviewing them yesterday about, don't forget about taking a shorter shower, just give up the animals. So that's my rant. And I'm sure you all have your own inputs to this, but it's getting real, folks. I mean, it's more than just forget about watering your grass, because there is no grass. It's all burnt up back in that part of the country. So
They went further than that. They said if they don't do something, they'll be forced. So they don't actually reduce their consumption, they will be forced to reduce their consumption by the government, which can you imagine the outcry for that? Because you wouldn't wear a mask, but now you're not going to have water, to fill your pool and your hot tub and water your lawn. Green lawns, they don't matter. What matters is the critters and creatures that are running around in those lawns, except for yellow jackets. I'm sorry to say that, but we can talk about that another time. We have an issue. But also to stem onto that, do you like tomatoes? Everyone here like tomatoes? I mean, Kelly, you might not have a problem with your tomatoes in Canada, but here in the United States, tomatoes are going to get more expensive because of this drought condition, and then because of the torrential rain that's coming or has come to certain parts, because Las Vegas has had floods because there's a monsoon season impacting Las Vegas. The agriculture for tomatoes is impacted. So we lose. Tomatoes are going to get more expensive, and there's a problem with the crop. And then I heard earlier this week there's a problem with coffee because of everything that's going on. And Ellen, you make a great point, because it's really frustrating me that we've gotten to the point where climate change has become the buzzword. It's being said by the news. We've gotten to the point where they're saying agriculture. But what they're not doing, this drives me crazy, is what we can do about it. Here's what's happening. Here's the cause. How do we fix it? And we know what everyone in unison. How do we fix it? Stop eating animals.
That's a big part.
It's the biggest part. And not flushing your toilet and taking shorter showers and not watering your lawn. Those are great things too.
Yeah.
Yes, they will add up. Stop being animals. It adds up even more. Let's talk about tigers, right?
Well,
tigers.
I was just going to mention, I remember that from, what was Al Gore's movie?
Inconvenient Truth.
Yeah, The Inconvenient Truth. Like the whole, I don't know how many times he mentioned different kinds of light bulbs. Never was animal agriculture mentioned. It's just like, that is the ultimate inconvenient truth. But it's sad, and I don't like to be cynical, but I also don't know when or if people will start caring. As long as they can get through their lives with a modicum of convenience and comfort, I guess that's maybe what matters. So,
one second, Marla and Kelly, you can add to this, because Celeste Rao advised Al Gore on the animal side,
right?
And he didn't want to hear it. You want to talk about that, Kelly? Because you know more than I do.
I was just going to jump in and say that my partner Ray took the climate reality certification, and part of that is you get the PowerPoint and you go and you do your own. Like you have to, in order to get it, you have to present 10 presentations, and there's out of 30 something slides, one slide that doesn't even talk about animal agriculture. It's just a little part in a picture of it. Right? They don't address it at all. And that's what happened with Sailesh was attending one of the climate reality, and there was activists outside saying, why aren't you talking about animal agriculture? And, someone from, whatever from climate reality was like, are those your people? And he's like, he didn't know they were there. And they said they actually printed out a piece of paper that told the people who were attending the Climate Reality Project event, do not engage with the activists. And so Sailesh got this piece of paper and he's like, screw you, don't tell me what to do. And he left. And then that's when he just said, like, they're not going to talk about it. I don't want to.
It's just, it really, it's.
And Al Gore's a vegan, he claims.
He's not using his platform for any.
Right.
Well, it's just it's just window dressing, you know, and it makes it shameful, you know, honestly. But on a positive note, the Tigers are kicking ass right now. I mean, not really. The numbers are so small considering everything, but it is a move in a good direction. Is we learned this week that the wild tiger populations throughout, you know, the areas where they live is up 40% globally, which is amazing, since 2015. And some of that is due to better monitoring of populations, so people understood better the actual numbers. But a lot also has to do with better conservation efforts and setting goals and reaching them. And Nepal in particular has tripled their tiger population from just over 120 to in 2010 to 355 today. And again, these are wild tigers. This is not animals in captivity. So, you know, we've got to hold on to these bits of good news where we find them, because, you know, I think people generally do want to do the right thing, but it's just, you know, like the concept of climate change is so abstract, even when we see the effects of it in our lives. I don't know. I wish I knew a way to get people to care, you know.
You mean hurricanes and storms and floods and droughts and fires, and is it enough?
Right. And these used to be called once in a century events, and now they're every year, basically. You know, they're no longer once a century.
Once every week. Look at Kentucky.
Right. Yeah.
You know, there are multiples, and now the next articles are how sad it is, how horrible it is. You're starting to realize how many people aren't fully insured in Kentucky who don't have the insurance or the means or the funds to fix what's come from this natural disaster. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I don't know, people have worked with FEMA and with trying to get money from the government. It's there, but it's not easy to get. And you have to have the ability to be able to do that. And meanwhile, everything you have is lost. So everything in your town is lost. Where's the computer for you to use? Ellen?
Yeah, and you know, it's not like this is just some kind of made up fantasy of the ultra left. The United Nations has said, like, ever since they published Livestock's Long Shadow, when was that? 2013, 14?
Yeah, a long time ago.
The one thing you can do to reduce your carbon footprint is to give up animal agriculture. Those were their words. And yet, when I did media consulting for Fish and Wildlife, the people who actually were stuck with trying to enforce the Endangered Species Act, you know, the Bushes were saying, oh, you can't call it global warming. Let's call it climate change. And every place in any federal document that had the phrase global warming had to be redacted and changed to climate change. The global warming had to be redacted and changed. And so, you know, it's like, Gore knows this stuff. I mean, it's not like he just didn't want to. It's all about what's politically expedient. And I don't think we have enough gutsy politicians yet that can embrace this and say, this is what we know and what we need to do, and just stop pussyfooting around it. Excuse me, Tigers.
Oh, that's fine.
But, you know, it's just.
Cory Booker's not even saying it.
Right.
And
nobody is. And you know, we see how craven, first of all, actually, Ellen, I don't know if it's a bad idea to call it climate change, because the level of comprehension is so low that when it's cold out, people, where's the global warming? You know?
That's right. It's snowing.
I actually don't know if it's a bad idea.
It's like Trump.
But yes, Trump, exactly. But the other thing is, no, this is a totally different subject, but I'll, you know, I think they're connected. You saw how Republicans who are no longer running again, like Adam Kinzinger, and then Liz Cheney, while she ran again, thought that it was probably likely she wasn't going to win, started voting more out of alignment with the lockstep You know, they won't take those kinds of risks otherwise. You know, they want their jobs, and unfortunately, they rubber stamp what the right wing, you know, and we need to hold our more moderate and progressive representatives accountable too. They need to be pushing this, but yeah.
Yep. At least we got the biggest bill ever signed yesterday.
There's a
That
lot going on. That's good.
that's very good. So as much as we're kind of doom and gloom about this subject, the United States is going to put billions of dollars into solar and wind and anything to combat.
No more.
Now you're unmuted.
Oh, sorry.
to combat the temperature of the earth, because just because we're doing that, obviously it impacts everywhere. It impacts Kelly in Canada. It impacts anybody all over the world, because the earth's temperature is the whole earth, not just the earth's temperature in the United States. So but we needed to do something, and if we want to be considered the, I'm going to put it in quotes, leader of the free world, then we need to lead.
Yeah.
And we may be getting a little bit of that back, which is a good thing. But I'm going to tell you, oh my gosh, I guess I'm just so tired and weak because I'm vegan.
What a segue! I feel a segue coming on.
Ellen, I can't even hold my head up. I don't know I don't know how I'm doing it. Are vegans weak?
She lost her
Now
voice.
who's accusing us of that? I must have missed that story.
It's not a story. It's a segue to our topic.
She was trying, Ellen. Throw her a little room.
Our topics
Oh,
are
me, right. I'm talking about that. Oh, okay, sorry. Yes. So,
it's the best.
because how does this go far enough back? I guess, eating meat is macho. Is that where this all started? I think so. Dairy milk does a body good. Oh, it's
If you
just
think
like,
it is hot now, in the next 30 years,
Sorry.
it's
That was, I guess I got so animated, I hit my phone and it went into the recording that we just talked about. Anyway, so it is still so pervasive that because vegans don't eat meat, we don't get enough protein. That's really the connection there. And we need protein to build muscles. And obviously 41 years, most of that time a vegan, and 41 years for sure running or trying to, has not made me weaker, or those of us there are many vegan runners out there. And Brendan Brazier, who has the whole Thrive chain, he was written up in the book Running, Born to Run. And that really ignited this whole back to nature, try and run barefoot, although I don't recommend it on concrete. But, what are our bodies really needing? What did Mother Nature really intend for us to do? Not be these nice shoes are really good, but, they're very cushioned, because when you're running on appropriate ground, not concrete that was invented 100 years ago, it can be cushioned. In fact, I was running on our beach the other day, and there were like these little potholes, maybe from underground crabs that kind of had this sunken thing. So anyway, bottom line is I tripped and just went flying all over. And I've done this a number of times running. It just happens, tree roots, whatever. But I landed in the sand, and, I got up and ran again this morning. So if you'd done that on concrete, it just wouldn't have ended so well. But point being is that when you are able to have a strong athletic training program, whatever it is, you get plenty of protein and nutrients that you need. But personally, I've just been so attacked every time there's like this media story. The last one I remember that really did me in the local running community with some people is Years back. It was a cover story on Time magazine, and it just ignited the fire under the vegan haters, and they attacked me on social media and vegans in general. And it just kind of blew me away, the comments that I saw, that like this mainstream belief that even after all this time locally, I've been, I usually win my age group when I race. This is 255 times now that I've placed in a 5K or longer since 2006, just on plants. So, it would be fun to hear from people who are listening, if you've had experiences like this that just drive you absolutely batty. I competed at the National Senior Games back in May. I was the only woman in my age group to have competed in all 7 track events, and I placed in 3 of them. I didn't get a gold medal this year. The last time I got one was 3 years ago. But still, the idea.
You're slacking, Ellen. You're slacking.
2 years from now, when they have them again, we'll see how it goes. But part of it is just trying to be out there. And what this is all about is not being competitive. It is just to prove, because somebody came up to me at a race at a 5K once after I was wearing a vegan shirt. Kind of not like this, but it had a vegan message on it. And they just looked at my shirt and said, "You can't run on a vegan diet. You certainly can't race on one." And like this rebellious third daughter that I am, we had a nice conversation, but internally I said, just you watch. And that's what this is all been about. And I just keep looking for ways to show that we get enough strength. You've got all the guys out there, the Robert Cheeks of the world. He really wrote the Bible, Vegan Bodybuilding. It's also with my publisher. And, he has since gone off and he's promoted different products, different supplements. Now he's with T. Colin Campbell and, not doing supplements. And for me, I've really never done supplements. I've tried them just to see if it would make a difference. And, it was convenient. That's about the only difference it made. But, I really do try and eat foods in their natural states and all that. Helene, are you raising your hand or just?
I want to go to what you said, because when you were in National Veg Fest, I think in 2017, my housemate at the time, Dave, was in the audience and he listened to you. I was emceed it, but I always walk away. So he listened to you. I actually think I was listening to you too. And you said, and he was doing protein powder like every day. And you were like, don't do supplements. You don't need supplements. Just eat a healthy diet. Eat a whole food plant-based diet. You won't need a protein powder. You'll never have a lack of protein because it just doesn't exist unless you're not eating at all. And then you're starved. It's starvation, which is a whole other issue. But if you're eating food, and like we all are, there's thing as a deficiency in protein. It doesn't exist. And that's one of the pieces of advice that you gave. He came home and stopped buying a protein powder for a number of years until he went back to it. But for a number of years, he just went, "Oh, Ellen said, we don't need to do that." So yeah, that is a great piece of advice from you. And as for us being, it's one thing I wanted you to say. How old are you?
95. No, I'm going to be November.
Say that again, because it got cut off.
I'm sorry. I'll be 70 in November.
So Ellen's running races almost every weekend.
Right.
And she'll be 70. And I'll tell you, my energy levels are pretty darn high for what I do. As I've aged, I still get the same amount of sleep. It doesn't matter. But, can I tell a difference when I eat more crappy food than when I eat more healthy food? For sure. But my energy level is probably just as good, more energy than most people. I mean, remember, we walk around Disney, and I kind of mentioned that last night when I was live, that people, we look at the people walking around Disney, because that's like an at least 5 mile day minimum walking. And we don't know how some of those people do it. But we also understand why so many of them have little scooters who don't probably need scooters. But They need a scooter to get around Disney because and we're talking all ages. We're talking younger than us to older than us, because not everyone in a scooter now is 75 plus.
Right.
There's 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 hitting people in the ankle scooters, running around Disney. Disney got smart and made it so you can't cut the lines anymore. You go in the line with your scooter.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So you don't get perks for getting one, which I think is what a lot of people were doing. But we have a climate issue on this planet. We have a food issue as well. And people want to look at us vegans and be like, point the finger at us and say, you're not healthy. You're not eating meat. There's something wrong with you. And meanwhile, our doctor visits, our blood work, the way we look, our skin. Exactly. Come on.
So, it's
Kelly, I think Kelly had something to.
Oh, yeah, Kelly, I see it. It's like a heart. What is that? It is a
leaf?
heart. That's an
Oh.
awesome spatula.
That's
my
my love spatula.
Okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly mention the book, The Protein Myth. I think it's David Irving, I think is the name, which is a really great book. But I also wanted to mention as well that plant-based / vegan companies push this idea as well. And it really bothers me when I see like a plant-based snack. It's like a plant-based protein snack. Like, we don't need it. Like, how many people do you know that is in the hospital with kwashiorkor? That is protein deficiency. Nobody has it here in North America. Or very, very few people. Definitely not your family. Right? So it really bothers me when I see vegan companies as well pushing this, right? Because you actually can get too much protein and it's actually not healthy. I'm sure, Ellen, you could talk to that, right?
Yeah, I mean, the high protein diets that many of us in the older age brackets used when we were teenagers and in college, like the precursors to Atkins being, the Stillman diets, which were like, as much steak and meat as you could eat in a day. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, a PCRM, Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, actually had they were taking a survey and asking people to write in if they had been diagnosed with heart disease following being on the Atkins diet, the second time that Atkins enjoyed its renewed publicity stunt. And, so you can end up with kidney disease as well from your kidneys being overtaxed by the protein, too much protein. And then, drinking so much water to flush it all out, if you're lucky that it all gets flushed out or whatever it's supposed to. And that's why these diets, they work in the short term, but often at the expense of your heart and your kidneys. So it's just so important to, our brains really do need carbs to function. And if you have ever tried a high protein diet, usually, and this is the whole concept between the concept of the paleo diet. I wrote Paleo Vegan just to kind of answer that one, which, people got really crazy and said, how dare you put these two words in the same sentence, let alone a book title. And my point was, we really need to reclaim and redefine the term paleo. And sure enough, National Geographic a year later came out with a cover story called The Real Paleo Diet. And they quoted out of my book, not by attribution, but saying the same things. Like, it wasn't like a wild boar was ever running through our backyard 3 times a day, getting sick and dying if we ate it raw or however. And they also said that the planet, like I did, can't sustain a diet based around meat and dairy. And really the reality was, while the men were out hunting the elusive buffalo or whatever, maybe they would get lucky as current hunter-gatherer tribes. There's only 2 of them left in Africa. Their success rate is maybe twice a month. So while the men were out doing that, the women were back at home foraging, eating the berries and the nuts and the seeds and whatever greens they could find. So, that's the whole story with paleo. And then, because of my experience in coaching high school girls cross country and track, what I see with younger kids is they just love running, love, the feeling, the endorphins that you get with running, and then they just want to do so much of it, and then they end up, because they're running usually on asphalt tracks, even if they're cushioned, still they end up stress fracturing their shins and other injuries. So it's just really important to kind of listen to your body and do what Mother Nature intends, which is not just going overboard on all these supplements and trying to figure out, even a banana has a gram of protein. So we are not going to die of protein.
Yeah, like one second, Marla. One of the things I give it as an example when it comes to the protein is a white flour bagel, like a plain bagel with peanut butter, has 9 grams of protein.
No,
I mean, that's now you're hungry. But it's 9 grams of protein in a bagel, not a healthy bagel, but a white flour bagel and peanut butter. I mean, that's, people kind of go, where am I going to get it over the course of the day? Count your protein. Eat a Beyond Burger. That's like 90% of your protein for the day in one burger.
Fat.
Right. It's got a lot of fat, but I mean, it's got 20, what is it? 20,
lot of grams.
21 grams or something of protein in it.
24.
24. Thank you, nuts. It's a great way to participate. Go ahead, Marla.
Well, I was going to mention a few things. One is that if you are feeling like, I mean, I think that there are maybe enough little small differences between us that making a sweeping statement that everyone gets enough protein may not land correctly with everyone. There are some people who maybe have more of a craving for it or more of a need for it, but the point is it is easily accessible, and you can have it with chickpeas, you can have it with walnuts, there's so many different ways other than like a Beyond Burger. But the other thing I was going to mention, Ellen, is, and I'm sure this is something that you address a lot, I'd love to hear your thoughts about it, is when, obviously you have achieved a lot, you've had, you're high performing. But the other thing that's very impressive to me is the longevity of your career as an athlete. Because a lot of times people blow out their knees or whatever it is with not only that you might start running in your 70s and run a little slower than other people, but you've been consistently running for all these years. I mean, maybe here and there a little bit less than others, but the point is you're still active. You're not, you can still do it. And so do you attribute some of your longevity to a plant-based diet?
To a plant-based diet? You cut out a little bit. Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and I forgot to say this. Thank you for bringing it up. Vegans typically, not across the board, but typically we don't get arthritis. And a meat-based animal protein, and you can Google this. There's a nice long technical explanation, but the animal protein lodges in the joints and it causes inflammation big time. Yeah. Very inflammatory. A vegan diet, no matter what you're eating, is very anti-inflammatory. Some people have reactions to tomatoes, the nightshades, eggplant, peppers. I just give me a vegan pizza all night long and I'm really good with that. I don't care. I don't, the only thing I get, sometimes I do get swelling from, and I just had a visit with my arthritis doctor because that is something that I was diagnosed with psoriatic arthritis when I was on book tour and just eating Cliff Bars all the time and gotten away from eating greens. And, once I got into Dr. Brooke Goldner's program, all of that went away. But I mean, I thought my running career was over when I Googled psoriatic arthritis, and I'm going like, oh, I'm going to be lucky to be walking in a year, let alone running. So, vegans don't always do the healthy thing. And sometimes it's like the environment when it's at our back door, chasing us down the street, we realize we got to redirect and regroup and get back to what Mother Nature intended. and Cliff Bars are so addictive, but they are not very healthy. So,
Nose. Unmute them.
Okay, I apologize. You're going to hear laughter and children in the back. But I wanted to touch base upon what Ellen was talking about in terms of within Africa. So the only reason why we have meat, even back in Nigeria, and not even really that frequently, meat normally is sometimes ceremonial. When I went to Nigeria, we went for a celebration for my grandfather, and they were killing a cow in the back, and 16-year-old me didn't know, and that was mortifying, but it was for a ceremonial purpose. You can't get angry for something that's cultural. I did not eat it, I did not partake in it. But we are predominantly plant-based. That's what most indigenous cultures are. The need for meat, or meat that was like we need it, not necessarily back home. You have it in particular to some dishes, but now veganism is huge around certain parts of Africa. And in Nigeria, there are several veg fests that are going on right now. So there's always a substitute, goat or fish, stockfish or beef. Normally that's what you will find, chicken, but they're all raised. Monsanto did not touch the continent. The government did something good and said no. So you will not find any GMOs at all in anything. So it is kind of funny when people are like, where are you going to get your protein from? Just like you guys said, chickpeas. Talking about bagels, sprouted bagels are fantastic. They have a lot of protein. So, it's even when coming into, kids being vegan and you're starving them and everything like that. I said, if you're smart and you research, you'll know how much protein kids need. And so that's another way to get them to get that in there with nut butter. But you look fantastic for 70. 70 where? So people want to think that, this diet it has so many benefits all across the board, So it is quite funny when people are like, and you're athletes and they're like, oh, where do you get your protein from? I feel like I should be rich. I'm sure people say that.
Well, I think it's
going to charge you for that.
Sorry. I think it's important to understand too that if you are an athlete, you need to cross train. You can't just go out and run. I mean, it blows my mind when I train sometimes with our local runners club. They don't do warm-ups before. I have this total ritual that most cross country and track teams do, whether they're high school or college. And you just can't go out and run 3 miles and then come back and not stretch. So when I say my knees are fine, it's because I do a lot of flexible stretching and, making sure most people at my age can't do this. It's just, I've done enough physical therapy, and I kind of look at that after, if I do have some kind of little injury or tweak, just kind of going to the gas station and getting them to look at things and make sure I'm doing stuff right, because you don't want something to turn into a chronic condition. And that's what really brings people down. And I've certainly had different issues myself. I have a trampoline injury in high school. And so my left ankle is chronically cranky, but only runners take inserts out of their shoes. But this really is one of my secrets too, because for women, especially, if we've born children, our hips, from the hormone relaxin, and I was a little HA League leader, so I had to learn all this stuff. It makes our hips expand so we can give the child some room to come out. And what happens is that puts pressure on the outside of the knees, and it makes our arches collapse. So if you didn't have flat feet like I did going into pregnancy, certainly coming out, I did. And if I didn't wear this, especially in my left shoe, my left knee would bring down my running so fast. I mean, the pain comes back within a day or two of not wearing these. I will race without these because, I want to fly, and just, the feeling of almost being barefoot, but, having a minimalist shoe when you're sprinting, that's I can get away with that for, 3 miles or so one time around the track. Anyway, point being is you just have to listen to your body. And, since we're doing shameless promotion here, I mean, I wrote this after Robert Cheek wrote his Vegan Bodybuilding, just because I really wanted something, especially for women, to be able to feel some kind of, have a goal and get motivated to get off the couch. Because as I say in there, sitting is the new smoking, and our metabolism slows down more than just even sleeping or watching TV. And, especially when you're watching TV or in front of the computer, it's like your heart practically stops. And we just have to listen to those little reminders. I'm a big fan of having some kind of watch thing. I'm getting
I
this.
love the show and tell.
But this thing, I mean, I used to write down, I would take my car out and drive it with the odometer for 3 miles. And now the watch does it all. And there's so many fun little gadgets and things on here to help you keep track of what you're doing, even if it's just walking. And by the way, just walking is wonderful. Do it with your dog if it's a good reason to take care of a shelter animal, so you can do your 1 mile somewhere. And then, you help both of you. And, dogs' brains are really connected to ours emotionally. So just, what better way to do this? I encourage people to pick a race, even if you're just going to walk, because, the sense of community and getting out there with other people, it just really helps your spirit and your soul. And then you get motivated. Well, maybe I can, pick up the pace a little bit. And that's how people do it. When I ran up north in St. Louis, I was always in the middle of the pack. I never placed in a race, and really didn't run competitively until I moved down to Florida and my children were all, off to college. And then, people were saying, you're still clocking an 8-minute mile. Why don't you come to a race? And then I started winning my age group, because it's like, I'm just showing up. And that's the other message I want to just convey, is just show up. Pick a goal, pick something that is maybe you think is unattainable, but you might surprise yourself and find that, you're not going to be last. I was pretty sure the first 5K I entered when I moved down to Florida, I was going to be last. The police, it was a parade route, and the police were talking into their two-way radios, and I was pretty sure they said, there goes the last one. But, I wasn't the last one. So you won't be either.
So just one thing I want to touch on that Now said before we go forward. Yeah, you can get angry for cultural. It's not an excuse. It's not a reason. I don't care. We talked about that last with the Jews, the Hasidim, with the chickens. Get damn right angry that they're taking chickens and spinning them around their heads just for a religious reason. So I couldn't let that pass. I got a finger.
So I want to kind of clarify. The celebration wasn't where the cow was killed for sacrifice. It was to feed the people that were in attendance.
Mm-hmm.
So from things that have happened, as far as I look at it like this. For cultures that were here that respected the earth and only killed for the need to do so to feed their people, and then still resourcefully to use that animal and not waste it. So for something, for clothing, for kids, that I can understand, and I'm not going to shut down or come at somebody. That is cultural, point blank period. Vegan or not, it's not our place. However, it's also kind of stems on the same thing. Yeah, I would get upset for, it's real touch and go. But in regards to what I was saying is that that cow was not killed for purpose of a sacrifice or for any religious thing. It was for the people in attendance for eating. It was part of one of our dishes that is culture, traditionally has that. Now, because I was there and there were other people, they did make one that was meat free. So it was something that, like, from way, 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 way back, that particular dish did call for that particular animal. So I just wanted to clarify that. And still, I know that we can agree to disagree depending on what it is for. In that case, that's where I will be like, I can't I'm not going to tread on you. But I understand where you're coming from in regards to what you were saying. Just in terms of some traditional aspects, I'm going to leave it for that. Like, I'm not going to come down someone's throat on there. That wouldn't be.
No, I totally understand that if there's a need for an animal to survive and you use that animal fully, there are definitely cultures on this planet still that when they kill that animal, they kill that animal kindly and they use every single piece of it. They don't have access to a supermarket. They don't have access to other food. But if you do, like the Jews in Brooklyn, they don't need to kill the chickens. They don't need to do it. They just don't need to do it. They have their food. They can eat anything else. They can, like they said, they can use coins. They can use something else to do that. So if the ability to eat is there and not use that animal, don't kill the animal. But I hear you, everything that you're saying. Go ahead, Marla.
I was going to mention a few things. One is, I think that what we're talking about here, I one of the things I love about the stew is all the different elements and that sort of thing, is gratuitousness, the birds being killed in that ceremonial, what's it? I'm a bad Jew.
It's Kapora. It's because you're in Illinois and not from the Northeast.
Right. But anyway, it's a needless, gratuitous, disgusting act of violence against all of them. Which is not to say that it's not acts of violence in other contexts, but one of the things that just embedded in my mind is, I remember reading some years ago, and it was writings from a Native American person in the 19th century about looking at the landscape after some settlers had moved, who had traveled through it, and how they had shot buffalo and just left them there for no reason other than to shoot. The gratuitous, senseless, wasteful, just to take something that's violent and terrible to begin with and just compound it. That's just kind of the nature of that. The other thing I was going to really quickly mention, and I think this is a great topic for future, is that the notion of using every aspect of an animal when we eat them. One of the things that I think is poorly understood is how very efficient animal agribusiness is at doing just that. They will use every part of a hoof, every part of a snout, every part of the blood, everything. So there's not, this is not to say there's anything good about it. It's about as appalling as it gets. But I'm just saying this idea that, let's romanticize this culture for using every aspect. We do the same thing because it's an industry that people don't make a lot of money at generally. So they're trying to find all the different avenues. So I just want to mention that. The last thing I wanted to mention, just to take a really quick little pivot here, Ellen, do you track your food? And we're really all over, but do you track micros and macros and all those things that I like? How important is that to you?
Who has time? Who has time?
Where do you do that?
Yeah. I mean, I used to, and that's the thing. I would encourage people to do that at least once in your life or one day in your life. So you just have a sense of what you are getting. And, to the point where, you might feel tired because you think you're not getting enough protein. Maybe you need more sleep, because sleep is so connected to so many things. And I know that if I haven't had my at least 7 hours of sleep, if I try to do a 5K the next day, I am pushing it. And, I will resort to coffee or green tea or something. Maybe I kind of go back and forth. Those are the only supplements of choice that I might use. But, you know, I because I taught for PCRM, was the Cancer Project, then the Food for Life class, you know, I really got used to following their model, which was 2 to 3 servings of beans a day, 4 or 5 servings of whole grains, and then, you know, as many fruits, well, vegetables in particular, and 2 to 3 servings of fruits. And if you want to lose weight, do raw. And, you know, if you follow those kind of general guidelines, that's really all you need. And you're going to get plenty of protein.
So a lot of it is just like being intuitive and really understanding where you're starting and getting empowered again in your decision making.
Yeah, and you know, that said, there's so many great apps. I know you've used Noom. I've actually signed on to Noom just so I could kind of see what they were doing, and they want you to keep track of stuff.
Yeah.
And the cool thing now is with the camera, you know, you can take a picture of your food and it practically knows what everything is in it. And certainly with the QR code, it the tracking code on the packaging, it knows exactly everything that you're eating anyway. So you can just do it that way. But there are different, you know, apps. Probably MyFitnessPal is the most popular one that's not associated with something like Noom. But you can keep track of all that. And what I love about those is that you can deduct calories for exercise. So,
yep. You can add on to your calories that you can eat in the day because of exercise.
Yeah, I mean, theory sounds good, but I'm just saying it may or may not work for you. You just have to figure out what works for you, really.
That's true. I want to pivot this a little bit. It's not going away, but I want to change the week to we're really concentrating on food. I want to concentrate and close out for the next like 5-6 minutes on as people. I mean, weak in personality, weak in our inner strength, in our being. Vegans are not weak. If anything, people would probably say like we're incredibly annoying because
I say that and I'm vegan.
Because we stand up. We stand up to other people, to industries, to companies, all around the world. We politicians, we try to facilitate change, and we do that by protesting, signing petitions, talking, you know, and whatever we each do individually, Ellen's her races. Me, it's my festivals. Marla, it's Vegan Street. Kelly, it's Climate Healers and the Veganabler. For Naus, it's Goth and the Raw and the Voth Fest. For Sangeeta, it's what's the name of her channel? Tilted Planet. It's Tilted Planet, right? We all do something that we resonate with to reach people. We all came together to do this, and each of you knows to do what we do, you cannot be weak because we get the crap that gets thrown at us.
For whatever
reason. But there are days where there are tears. There are days where you in your own home, you know what? You do it. You know, there are days where you say, I'm done. Because it's just, why are you so mean? Why does it matter to you that I'm doing what I'm doing? Why don't you focus on you and what you can do? And the keyboard warriors, they can just go F themselves. Go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, talking about weak and like bringing it to like weak of mind. I watch and read and discuss way more like thought-provoking things than I did before I was vegan. You know, before I was vegan, I would just read mindless books that, you know, feel-good books that like wasn't challenging my brain. But like really, in my household, we have conversations, like complex, you know, like thought-provoking conversations all hours of night. I sometimes have to say today, you know what? It's midnight. Like, don't ask me these questions, right? you know, like I have because he's always thinking, you know, like so if anything, like I know for me, I'm so much more sharper in my mind because we seek this information.
You know, you're always looking for a way to not only just do your thing, but you look at it with vegan eyes. Like I planned a race that was all vegan. There was no dairy at the end of the race, and people were ready to remove my head. But I personally spent $3,000 and went and got the best vegan food I could in town and brought it to the table so people could actually taste it and see it. And, you know, the reaction of like, this is vegan. And, you know, the other thing that the Dairy Council puts cartons of milk in finishers' hands when they cross the finish line. I have revolted against that and been very outspoken. So absolutely, it doesn't just stop with the activities that we do. It's looking for ways to change the world. And I know you all really do a great job of that.
Marla?
Yeah, I was just going to mention that one of the things that I feel is one of the best benefits of being vegan, like most of it, I would be, you know, almost everything. I'm just grateful to be able to make this choice for the animals. But I do think that if you have people-pleasing tendencies, it's great to be vegan because that'll get rid of it right away because people take it so personally and get so defensive around it, you making your own decision about that. And also just not being afraid to go against the grain, to a little different. Like I know that there are people who are truly anxious about ordering different food around, you know, like if you're at a table with people and you get like, you decide that you're going, you know, you're vegan, so you're going to order vegan food. There are a lot of people that's a really anxiety ridden thought to, you know, just standing apart like that and just doing your own thing. But to me, one of the biggest benefits of being vegan is just that. It's just putting into context what's important and what's not, and pleasing others based on what you put in your mouth is not one of those. No.
Oh my God, they're quiet. Okay, here we go. So they're quiet, no noise. They're fine, they're alive. So what we're gonna
They're there. They're right behind your nose.
I think, you know, like I said, like it's really good to have like representation and showing faces, and it was great to be a part of when I did a Vegan Life magazine when I was in that issue. And that was just so great to show this is what diversity of different faces are, different people who are within the community. And here is their story behind it. You know, there are things that will make me giddy or stim, which is, you know, normal of neurodivergent individuals. But if I go to a Kroger and I see someone who is considering or curious about natural foods or organic foods, I squeal because it's not like I'm try in on their conversation, especially if it's a person of color and I'm just like, and they're curious, I will, you know, say, you know, and let them know that if it's a brand that they are interested in, I've tried almost every single vegan brand that there's around. And, you know, and to enlighten them. And the biggest thing that they would say is, oh, I got to have steak. I got to have, you know, this and that. And for some reason, the first thing that always pops into my mind is the story of saying, okay, I want you to kind of think, what does a lion do when they have their kill? When they kill it, they immediately take it back to the pride. And what has to happen? The pride has to consume it because once air hits, that is dead. It's going to gray. And they'll look at me and I'm like, so does that make any sense?
Right.
What's over there? Mind blown by not even being argumentative or combative, just make them think. And so is there any reason why it says it's going to be good for how many months? I told them about, you know, I said that color is unnatural. There have been articles and news things that have actually come out about what butchers have said that they do with it. Now, it's not a thing I'm hoping that triggers something. If you choose to, it does make them think. I don't know what your choices is going to be when you know, leave the store. But any way I can get you to think of not only of your health, but what was happening to these animals as well, because there's no chicken that big There's not.
Mm-mm.
And in any little possible way that, all of us, we may be different in appearance or aesthetic and things that we like, but we all are here with the same mission. And I also love speaking for, being passionate for children, especially vegan children and vegan parents, and going against those vegan parents who don't know what you're doing. It's not a trend. You can kill children if you don't know what you are doing. And education is everything, and a community is everything. So however we can enlighten and make change. And it's even more imperative now to just be really bold, because you guys were talking about what's going on with the environment and the floods in California. And the first thing that came to mind when Helen, you were talking about earthquakes is Universal Studios had a ride where you could go ahead and relive that earthquake in California. I damn near had a heart attack. Like, I was young and I love scary things, but that, as soon as the thing broke and there was a truck and I was like, is this what this is?
No.
Mortified. It's happening. We're having it happen again. This is serious. This is not a joke. This is not a joke. And
That was the backlot tour, right?
yes,
Where they go into the subway.
yes.
I remember that. Thank you for reminding me of that. In San Francisco, I believe, in the park there, they have this metal thing you can step on that will simulate the feel of an earthquake.
Yep.
If you want to feel that. I felt one in the 7 years living out there, just so you know. So I thought I'd run home. Nope. I was in a hockey game.
Very unnerving, though, right? It's like,
San Jose Sharks playoff game, upper bowl, the seat vibrated.
yeah.
And you watched the whole upper bowl buzz, right? And then the luxury suites have TVs. So we were looking back at them. The game, the players, and the lower bowl felt nothing.
Yeah.
It just kept going on. And somebody said, was that an earthquake? And then they were like, it's an earthquake. And I was like, no way, that's my first earthquake. And like all the Californians looked at me like, are you out of your mind? I was like, that was my first one. So of course it's very memorable to me because obviously this is my first earthquake in California.
Big virgin.
It was very, very, very interesting. But I think we've proven our point that we're not weak. We're not weak in physical. We're not weak in mental. And if anything, when you make that decision not to eat vegan, not to eat whole food plant-based, we're not talking about eating. When I'll just expand it for the weakness. When you make the decision to go vegan, ethically vegan, it's impossible to be a weak person because it's from watching what's happening to all the animals on the planet and people's health that you kind of come to that realization that, I need to do something.
Right.
And when you throw in the ethics, people typically don't just leave it in their own space. We tend to want to, especially newbies. You always know who the newbie is, right? They're out screaming their heads off, telling everybody what to do. And it's adorable because we all did it. And then you kind of ease your way into who you are and where your lane is. And then you follow that lane, and that you kind of ebb and flow over the course of hopefully your really long, healthy lifetime, because it should make a difference with your longevity. In addition to, our the fact that we're pretty strong people, and I'll just leave it there. Anyone have anything else to say before we close out?
I was just going to say that I think that knowing what we know and feeling what we feel about the injustice and the cruelty and the senselessness, and living publicly as vegans and committing to it always shows our strength, not our weakness. We're not like, I know the stereotype of the bunny hugger, and there's nothing wrong with hugging bunnies as long as you're kind about it. But the point is just that I've seen people who didn't have the fortitude to stay with it because they were too wrapped up in their feelings around it. They felt too vulnerable and too exposed because the sadness of this lifestyle and knowing what we know. So to me, it takes strength to say, I know what I know the cruelty of it. I'm continuing with it. I'm going to be a public vegan so that I can help usher in more people. So to me, that takes courage and strength.
Yeah, and think about what vegans are like, what a lot of vegans are doing, from like bearing witness to watching these,
Right.
Earthlings, all of these like really graphic documentaries, and you watch them over and over, even though they're so traumatizing, or going undercover and working at a slaughterhouse to get footage to expose them, or being elf and, like looking at these animals that are like, being used for experiments. Like all these things requires so much strength, So we get frustrated when we ask, our family member to just watch a documentary. Like they don't even have the strength to watch it. So we have a lot more strength than
Not even like Forks Over Knives. Not even like one that has nothing to do with like the animal gore or anything. It's just health minded. Thank you, Susan, for that great comment. Compassion is the most powerful and challenging place to live from. It kind of sums it up, doesn't it?
It sums it up a lot. It's funny how you were mentioning Earthlings. I think my mom got through 5 minutes.
That's about normal.
Like it broke her, and it broke me, but I like watched it like because it was something that needed to be watched. It's almost too like you're wanting to not desensitize, but what is this breaking this thing where they think, oh, well, it's not that important.
Yeah.
If we can't say anything, people can be visual. Watch this.
Right.
Look, if you're gonna watch, and I really hate this because it's like if you'll sit and go to a movie and watch a horror film, which is still a sentient being killed, you need to watch this because you're not desensitized to that. That doesn't faze you. You'll sit and watch that. No, it's not entertaining, but it's an awakening.
Right.
And you need to watch it. So, I mean, we are very strong people in regards to how we go about trying to change, trying to enlighten people and wake them up. Every single thing has a right to be here. In my culture, that's what we say. Every single thing has a right to be here. It breathes, it lives.
Right.
And it has no right to go. You have no right to say so,
Right.
So we still have a lot of work, and weak-minded vegans, just like you were saying, look, it took a lot of strength for me to continue because I got berated badly when I first started with Gotham Raw. That I've had social anxiety, so for me it was through the artistical way of doing my food, and then people ask questions, and then I would educate that way. But to the vegans that were blowing up my inbox, just negative and hurtful, it took a lot, and I didn't do anything to call out names, but I posted about it. And I mean full-on community of individuals like you guys to goths who are vegan in the community. They were about to go to war, and I was like, let's be better than them. Show them that I have a right to be here, and you really need to check yourself in the mirror because compassion is all out the window. You're doing it for show. It's not a hashtag. It's not to get a company to sponsor you. You need to really think about what it is to be vegan and compassionate. Think.
So some of your biggest trolls were vegans?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And Ellen's not here, and it was a bodybuilder, and it was a guy who blew up my inbox, and I was like, look here, Dick.
We get that too.
It was like, really? You have some nerve. You really, really do.
I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
That was right after I met you.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
A guy that did that, yep. And then the one that was like, we're ashamed to have you in the community. You don't look like us. You need to be more like Fulia Christina. I was just like, really? Is this where you're going for it? Not the fact that we're all together in this, but the fact that I love the dark aesthetic. It's not hurting you. It's not. Like, where is your priorities here?
It's just unfathomable. I can't fathom it. It's so bizarre. It's so bizarre. But being semi-anonymous on social media gives people the courage that, liquid, we used to call it liquid courage when drunk people would, say what was really on their minds. And now we've got.
Yep, they always do. The truth comes out when you're drunk. Listen to people when they're drunk. When they're sober, they say, "Oh no, I didn't mean that." No, they meant it.
Right.
They just felt comfortable enough to say it because they can use alcohol as the excuse. So
we actually, I know we're closing soon, but I was just going to mention, like, I could be harassed by meat eaters day in and day out, and sometimes we are, and it just doesn't land because I don't care. And so often the arguments against us are so petty and irrational that it's just laughable. But when it's other vegans who are telling you that you're quote unquote hurting the cause because you express things in a different way, or because you support Black Lives Matter, or because whatever it is that they decide is crossing the line, that's the stuff that gets enervating. And, again, these are probably also people whose opinions don't matter to me, but that's the stuff that gets tiring.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard when it's your own community, people within your community doing dick things because they decided they don't like you, they don't like something you said, something you did, you personally don't mesh with them, even though the vegan should trump that. I don't need to be friends with you, which I think I said last week. We all don't have to be friends. We all don't have to get along either. But when it comes to the mission for what we're doing, don't get in the way.
Right.
Just get out of the way. You don't need to step on each other. You don't need to be better than me. I don't need to be better than you. It's not what it's about. If you truly believe in this, truly believe in it, you do it without an ego.
Right. Well, plus these people try to reduce it down to a formula that doesn't exist. Like, if I do this and say that in this way and look this way, then I'm going to have the best effect on people. There are people who swear up and down that the best advocacy is promoting weight loss. There are people who swear up and down that the best advocacy is this or that. The fact is, we're all different, which is beautiful. And the fact is that, we're all influenced by different things, and to your point, Helene, a phrase that goes through my head all the time is lead, follow, or get out of the way. You know what I mean? Just like, do your own thing, follow someone you like, or just leave everyone alone. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't understand why, like, there are plenty of activists.
There's no way to explain it. It's humans. That's all it is. It's just human nature. It's human nature to, I think we had April last week. The human nature is that if you see someone doing better than you need to bring them down to where you are. That's human nature. And we're all guilty of it at different times. You may not act on it, but you probably have the feelings of it towards somebody else, depending on it doesn't mean any veganism. It could just be life. That person got a new house. That person got a new car. Oh, how'd they do that? Well, maybe they borrowed and they're up to debt, up to the kazoo. You don't know. But the thing is, we all have that piece of us that has envy. It's part of being human. It's what you do with those pieces is what matters. And human nature is to squash when somebody is better. When you perceive someone as better than you, perceive someone as doing more than you, perceive that somebody is getting too big for their britches.
It's a mentality of scarcity. It's a mentality of, insecurity. Like, obviously someone who's confident in their lives, confident in their approach, confident in their gifts, does not disparage someone else who's doing things in a different way. It's just, that's not how it works. When I'm feeling my most petty is when I'm the most insecure.
Right. And people hate people that are confident.
Yeah.
People do not like to be called out.
Women, let's be honest.
Oh, we know in the last 24 hours, like 48 hours, we just went through something where I stood up. Somebody was disparaging Steven.
Mm.
And I was like, nah,
He's my
nope,
man.
nope. Yeah, I got on the phone. I was like, you will not speak to him
Taking
like
her
that.
earrings out. Yeah.
Yeah, that was not okay. I was not okay with it. And then they started attacking me.
Mhm.
And I was like, I'm certainly not okay with you attacking him. I'm not okay with you attacking me. And here's what I have to say about it. And you know what people don't like? Being called out.
Right.
They hate it. They get really defensive and they start lying and they start coming at you. And I'm just like,
Moving the
can't,
goalposts.
you can't lie because I'm going to call you out on that too. Because you can't know. And it has to be worth it for me to stand up. And I'll stand up. Some people, it just doesn't matter. If I never see you again,
exactly.
it doesn't matter. But
Exactly.
if it's something that can be continued ongoing and it has to be nipped, I'm nipping it. And it drives people crazy.
Right.
Because most people don't do that. They just walk away and go talk about it with other people
Mhm.
and don't
Are you
actually go to
guys,
the person.
Are you all people who let, attacks against you kind of more or less roll off, but if someone comes after someone you care about, it just brings out your I said that with Mouse. That's me to a T. Like
Go after someone I love, and you just better watch out. My animals, my furkins, but at the same time, you come after me.
yeah, I'll stand up for myself too, but if it's someone I love, forget it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mouse, what were you gonna say?
Oh yeah. It's very much like I don't know. I don't like confrontation. So if you're going to say something about me, I'll handle you the way that I need to, depending on what it is. But if you come against and you say anything about chosen family, if you say anything about my children,
Oh,
I
God.
will end you, point blank, period. Because that's a territory you don't tread. You don't poke the quiet ones. You don't think
Right.
that we don't have people that we care deeply about. Empathy is an actual thing. And if I bring you into my circle, especially being the fact that I know what it's like to have been hurt, I know what it's like to give of yourself and have people just shit on you. I'm protective of those that I see that are like that. You are family. You are family. And if I really, really, really care for you, you think I'm playing? No, I will protect you and defend you because I know that you will do the same. But I've had, now it's, okay, so someone on TikTok posted something and I am a Marblehead. I love me some Tom Hiddleston with a passion. So there was like a Loki cut that someone had done. And I guess this person came at me because I said Great Hall and not Throne Room for Thor the Dark World. And I was just like, Thor, like great room, Thorn room, alleyway, but I don't care. It's Tom. Whatever. I'm happy and pleased. And then she was like, girl, you can just, not coming for anything. I was like, well, it's they, them. Just letting you know.
Yeah, right.
And then I cracked that joke. And then she was like, oh my God, don't get so offended. It's not like I didn't know. And I was like, you're saying I'm offended, but you are the one who got a bit annoyed from me, a great hall and a thorn room. Comment not found. And so I was like, first and foremost, it didn't have to go that way, but you did not do it right. You took it that way. So you do not have the right to tell me what I need to get offended by, what I can and cannot be offended by. You offended me. So let me school you in the most proper and polite way that I possibly can without going off on you in public. So it's like, I really, try to let things, go with me depending on what they are. I try not to even engage, but there's been a lot of things where there have been a lot of people, it's mostly racism, definitely. Even if I don't get to it, there are people that immediately go in for it. But yeah, I go off on people, especially for anybody that I hold dear.
Yeah, don't mistake my kindness for me, for you to walk over me.
Yes.
I'm kind to a point in business. I'm kind to a point.
Kind to a point. Right.
But you will not take advantage. And I get taken advantage of because I'm too kind at times. And Stephen hates it. He sees people potentially taking advantage. And sometimes I see it and I'm like, I don't have to invite them back if I really feel it's egregious. However, if they are, they will know because I will handle it. So, because I'm not afraid to. I'm not, it's not first year Veg Fest where I'm like hoping people will show up and bend, because you have to you kind of bend those rules a little. I really want you to come, so I want to be really, really nice to you, and I'm still really nice to you, but you don't get to take advantage of us or me or the movement or the nonprofit, because people have, and I've called them out when they've taken advantage. Boy, did they not like it.
No.
And I've been called some pretty mean things. I was called Queen Vegan.
Right.
In a derogatory email back to me.
Domineering, controlling.
Yes, it was from a man. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like some of us get shit done. Sorry. Bye.
I was like, oh, whatever. All right. So let's close this out. We went on. This was great. This is a great conversation. Let me see if I can look at before we go, like what we're doing next week. I can probably get that. We're going to be
cooking dinner. It smells so good.
I'd say Steven's cooking dinner. So next week is going to be week 39. So that's pretty cool. And it's, are your kids being bullied for being vegan? So that's going to be another great show. All right, let's go into the green room. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Marla. Thank you, Naus. Thank you, Ellen, to leave and go on 8 o'clock call. Thank you for watching and joining us on the Vegan Stew. We're here weekly, except for the first Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Remember to go to virtualvegfestlive.com, enter our contest, to win some really cool prizes by uploading a creative picture with one of our sponsors. Thanks to Piedmont Farm Animal Refuge for sponsoring our live talks this month. They present Triangle Veg Fest and Asheville Vegan Fest. And, like I say, be kind, be nice, be understanding. Covey says, seek first to understand in order to be understood. Let that resonate for a little while. It's how I live. Subscribe, YouTube, really appreciate it. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon.